Well, hello there. We're in that very strange period between Christmas and New Year where we don't quite know what day it is, and you've probably all eaten your full weight in sweets and everything. Also, I've got a bit of Christmas flu. I think everyone's got it at the moment, but we just wanted to get online and talk about the news that's been coming out recently. So, what do we know about Halloween Horror Nights coming to the UK? First up, a bit of history. What do we know? So, in the middle of December, Alicia Stella from Theme Park Stop produced a video that just let out some investigation, a lot of work that she'd been doing. That Universal had purchased some land in Bedford, they'd registered a load of trademarks, and it looked like we were getting Universal Studios here in the UK. Now, after that, it took a couple of days before Universal, once it was broken, Universal actually confirmed that they are looking at it. They have acquired the land, and a website has been launched that actually looks pretty official from Universal, saying they are contemplating a theme park or a resort in the UK. They've clearly been working behind the scenes for a long, long time with Bedford City Council. I know for a number of sources that this has been potentially looked at for quite a while. People looking around IPs and looking at other things. There's a lot going on in the UK scare attraction market at the moment, and this is one of them. But it looks like this is definitely a true story. And so if the park is happening, it's pretty obvious that Halloween Horror Nights will happen. So what's currently planned is unknown at the moment. It's at a very, very early stage. But what is interesting is they have talked about a full theme park as per the ones over in Florida. There has been registration of Halloween Horrors Unleashed, which is the indoor, more permanent scare attraction event space that's coming to Las Vegas next year. Interesting, that IP was trademarked quite early last year for the UK market. Has since been superseded by the Halloween Horror Nights one. So it looks like we are now going down a full theme park route, which could mean we will get Halloween Horror Nights here in the UK. As we said, what has been registered is the domains Universal Great Britain, the domain Halloween Horror Nights for use in the UK, as well as an earlier registration of Horror Nights Unleashed. So they clearly believe there's a market in the UK for this sort of event. So we can only see what happens. There was a clear desire for Universal to enter the UK market, and for that we should be excited. You can see all across the web at the moment, people are very, very excited about the idea of Halloween Horror Nights. We're going to talk a little while later about why Halloween Horror Nights are so good, why everybody likes them, and why it's exciting news. Okay, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. I don't think Halloween Horror Nights is the best event. I think a lot of people go to Florida and they love to be able to vlog that they've gone to Florida. Hey, look, we've gone to Florida. We're at Halloween Horror Nights. We're having the best time. It is an incredible event. It is really, really an incredible event with detailed sets, scares, and whatever. The scares themselves are pretty weak compared to what we do here in the UK. I think half the joy of people saying they're at Halloween Horror Nights is that they're on a holiday. They're in Florida. They've got, all the joys of being in America on holiday. The weather is so much nicer. They've got Disney just down the road. It is a great event. Is it the best? We'll argue about that later. It is great fun. I always have a good time when I go to Halloween Horror Nights. But is it a game changer? We'll find out. So what's good? Well, let's face it. They have many, many scare mazes built around big movie franchises. They have a lot of standalone mazes that aren't on franchises, but they have the rights to Stranger Things, Evil Dead in the past. They had this year they had The Last of Us. They will have those IPs and they will bring them if they're bringing a Halloween Horror Nights to the UK. And that's pretty big. I mean, we would love to see a Stranger Things maze here in the UK. They've got the license to do it, and they can do it. The atmosphere is amazing throughout the park. You cannot fail to have a good time. I mean, it's very busy, but it's a great fun event. The mazes are fun. The atmosphere is fun. Everything about it is a great night out. And if we can even recreate some of that in the UK, granted, it'll be cold and it could be wet. There was a massive difference between walking around Halloween Horror Nights in Florida or California in shorts and t-shirt than there is walking around the UK in a bobble hat and scarf and gloves because you're freezing cold. And I think that needs to be considered by a lot of people. And this is where I'm now going to be quite controversial. What is bad about Universal? It's bloody expensive. It is extortionately expensive. I can't say enough how expensive Universal is. It's like $120 for the night just to go in the evening. It's a hard ticketed event, so they close the theme park. You can then come back in later. And of course, Universal know how to make money out of you. They upsell everything from fast track to stay and screen tickets to extra meals, food packages. The VIP tours run to hundreds and hundreds of dollars. They know what they're doing. They spend a lot of money on the event and they make the event look great, but they recoup that money by charging you a fortune. And that's not just to get in. Once you're in there, they will rinse you as much as they can for merchandise, themed food, themed drinks, things that you didn't think you actually needed, but, oh, well, hey, look, there's a Halloween themed burger here this year or a Stranger Things cocktail. I've got to buy that. And I know this sounds really cynical, but it is a very expensive and money-making thing for Universal. They do it well. They do it really well. And we all get caught by it every time we go. And we buy all the merchandise and we buy all the drinks and we buy all the foods. And we put them on our Instagrams and vlogs and whatever. But it's expensive. And it's pretty obvious that if we get Halloween Horror Nights in the UK, it's going to be expensive. Thirdly, this is a controversial one, but the scares are repetitive. The style of US scare attractions with scare buttons where the actor is just stood there, presses the button, jumps out and goes, "Ugh!" Stands there, next people come, presses the scare button, "Ugh!" There are only so many times an actor, whether they're dressed as a Demogorgon from Stranger Things or they're dressed as Freddy or Chucky or whatever they might be, there's only so many times you can have someone just, the lights go and a sudden noise and just go, "Ugh!" It's repetitive. Controversial, I know, but it is repetitive. It doesn't work. The scare actors in the mazes are not given the freedom that we have over here in the UK, which is they can do what they want, they can interact with people, they can pick up on people's names, they can follow them. It's very, very regimented. You are stood in a position, as people come past, you press the button and you go, "There." Fortunately, the scare zones are much more fun. If you were a scare actor, I would love to work in the scare zones because you got freedom to do whatever, move around and have a bit more fun. But the scare zones, very repetitive. So this is an interesting one. So for those who don't know, obviously Americans call their attractions, they call them haunts. It's because they used to be haunted houses, so they still talk about haunts. Fair play, Universal actually call theirs houses. But of course, over here in the UK, about 15 years ago, a consortium of scare attraction owners, including Tully's, Atmosphere Scare Entertainment, London Bridge Experience, The Dungeons, there were quite a few people in a room together, and we said, we don't like the American word haunts, but they're not haunts. We have a lot of haunted buildings here in the UK. So actually what we have is a scare attraction. That's why we use the word scare attractions. Most websites over here, attractions in UK and Europe use the term scare attraction, not haunt. Yeah, there are a few that call them haunts. They're generally people who go to America quite a lot. You'll see on Tully's website, they often say they've got a new haunt coming because Stuart from Tully's is very closely linked to the American market. He goes over to HauntCon and other things. But most of Europe have adopted the term scare attraction. And the interesting thing, the actual Universal website that has been produced does say house stroke scare attraction. So they're obviously looking at the UK market and have realised that we use a different term over here. So yeah, hopefully I'll start calling them scare attractions or scare houses and not haunts. So what do they need to factor for a UK market? They need to understand the UK market carefully. We have a very well established network of scare attractions in this UK, from some of the older things that have been going around, that have been around since the start, like Tully's, through to some of the newer events that have come up. You know, Fear at Avon Valley is only celebrating its 5th year, but we've got a very unique way of doing things. You may remember last year I went to Malaysia and I went to Linton V. Harris's school. Now, Linton V. Harris was the guy who first brought scare attractions to the UK, Alton Towers, Thorpe Park and Warwick. They were very much hands on shoulders, a very strict way of training your actors and what they could do. We've broken away from that. There's very few attractions nowadays in the UK where you have to put your hands on shoulders and you walk through in a conga line. We have very much smaller groups. We don't have the big conga lines that they have in the US houses. We don't have the scare buttons. It's very rare that an actor is just doing the sound. You know, they are actually trained to react to people, do things, do whatever. And I think our attractions over here are a lot more immersive. And I think they need to understand that, because they just bring in scare buttons and repeat what they do in Florida and Florida, California and Singapore. It's not going to work. Now, interestingly, over here, the only park or the only other event that really does the whole scare button type events is Wallaby Holland. If you haven't been to Wallaby Holland, or if you don't know, it was originally, Halloween was brought to Holland when Six Flags owned Wallaby Holland. It was Six Flags Holland. They brought Fright Fest over, and the original mazes there, like Jefferson Manor, the Holidays and whatever, are very much scare button, actor going, they're great mazes, they're great fun, but we have definitely moved on here in the UK. And as I'm going to go back to what I was saying about when I was in Malaysia. We were still, the scares in Malaysia were very much the old school, the original way of doing things, and we have moved on a lot. I put subspecies at Alton Towers down to that, you know, when we basically started grabbing people, moving them apart. And we have developed in a slightly different way. And I think if Universal just come in and recreate what they're doing over in the US, it's not going to be as popular. So what does it mean for theme parks in the UK? Clearly, this is going to put a lot, you know, it's going to basically light a fire under the backside of Merlin. Now, a lot of people moan about Merlin parks and whatever, but if you look at what they've been doing recently, there's been a lot of money being spent. You know, the rebrand of Nemesis, the opening of Nemesis Subterra, all the stuff done at Curse of Autumn Manor, the whole Jumanji Land down in Chessington, the new coasters coming into Legoland. There is a lot of money and investment. Hyperia, of course, coming to Thorpe Park. There's a lot of money and investment happening in the UK. Now, as I said, this has been rumoured for a while, this Universal thing. So, those theme parks, they will know what's happening. And they need to up their game, from a roller coaster and theme park point of view. But, you know, more theme parks in the UK. That's great. This is where it gets a bit more interesting. What will it actually mean for scare attractions? Clearly, if we got a full Halloween Horror Nights, it will cannibalise some of the larger events like Alton Towers or Tully's, events that have a high entry price. You know, by the time you pay to get into Alton Towers and all the mazes, you're racking up 75, 80 quid. If you want to do everything at Tully's and be guaranteed of doing all the 10 mazes at Tully's, you're going to have to buy a fast track or a premium or whatever, and that's going to cost you 50, 60 quid or whatever. These high value events are likely to be cannibalized by this, because people will say, if I'm going to spend 50, 60, up to £100 going to a Halloween event, I'm going to go to Universal, at least in the first couple of years, while people get used to what's going on. But also, going back to what we said about Universal before, they change every year. They never have the same lineup. And I'm sorry, I'm going to call out Tully's when I say this. Tully's, you've got the same lineup. Most of your mazes have returned year on year. It's a great park. We always have a great time at Tully's. But events aren't going to be able to rely on just having the same maze every single year. Because Universal won't. They will swap things out. They will move things around. They will have new stories. And they will keep things fresh. So if other attractions want people to come, they're going to have to change and do things. The other question is, will people travel? People really don't travel for Halloween events at the moment. Tully's has got a great catchment area of London, but obviously Universal, anyone coming from London could get to Universal very quickly. You've got Fairhaven Valley down in Bristol. That has a good local catchment. Now, yes, enthusiasts will travel to these events and people who want to go to them, but generally people don't travel a long way to go to a scare event. So I think all the local events will still be fine. And I think some of the smaller events will really do well, because people will get the taste for Halloween, horror, being scared, and they'll go, oh, I want to do this. Oh, what's this, $20 event or £20 event down the road, Halloween Horror Nights. Oh, this is really good. I'm going to go to that. I'm going to mention Halloween Horror Nights. Sorry, not Halloween Horror Nights, Dr. Fright's Halloween Nights. That is probably the nearest attraction to where Universal is going to be. And the problem they might have is some of the actors that currently volunteers at Dr. Fright's Halloween Nights might end up being enticed to be paid at Universal. But they are completely different events. They can stand alone, and I think people would still be able to enjoy Halloween Horror Nights on one side and go to Dr. Fright's Halloween Nights. They're completely separate, completely run. One is run from a love of scaring people, a love of entertaining and giving people a fun night out, and the other one is just to rinse you of money. I'm sorry, Universal. I'm going to say, and I'm going to sound really cynical when I say this, but at the end of the day, they want to make money out of you, which is why they're coming to the UK. As I said, the impact on smaller events will be interesting. I think it could raise the awareness of scare attractions. The biggest thing, I think, for a lot of events in this UK is Universal will bring IPs into the UK. They will have Freddy, Jason, Chucky, whatever, and won't be tied any small attraction that doesn't currently have a license for them. And I think you will actually see there are a lot more attractions out there that are currently illegally using IPs and are just getting, they're just sliding under the radar. Nobody really notices what they're doing, and we all love them. I think Universal will protect not only what they've purchased. So if they've purchased, say, the rights to Chucky, nobody else will be able to use Chucky. And if they see or hear of any other scare event in the UK or Europe using a Chucky brand, they will shut you down. They've got a big legal team behind them, and they will come at you and say, you don't have the license to do this. They will come after you. But I don't even think it's brands that they own. I think they will pride themselves on the fact that they are an IP brand event. So therefore, they're not going to want other people saying, hey, look, we've got Poltergeist or The Mummy or whatever, any other brands that, Mummy is a Universal brand, but any brand that isn't Universal. I think Universal want to say, we are the only place you can come to if you want to experience a scare attraction based around a film or an IP or a game. So I think that's got a big impact for a lot of attractions in the UK who are, as I say, secretly and under the radar using IPs that they haven't paid for. I also think it's going to have a massive impact on actors. Where are all these actors going to come from? Universal really does employ a lot of actors. Now, we know Alton Towers has trouble employing actors in the Midlands. There's a lot of people there is just a big pool of actors, and most events over the last few years have struggled to get the right number of actors that they need. Alton Towers employs 100, 120 scare actors, if not more. Universal could have a lot more than that. So it's going to be interesting to see, do they end up cannibalizing each other? So will actors go to Universal instead of Alton or move around? And we'll see what happens with that. So finally, is the idea of Halloween Horror Nights coming to the UK exciting? Of course it is. Why do you think we've shared so many articles about it recently? This is really, really exciting news. We always have a great time at Halloween Horror Nights. And despite what I've said about it being expensive, despite it being busy, despite the conga lines and the scares, it is a great event. It really, really is a great event. And if we can get that in the middle of the UK, an hour outside of London, we're laughing. I'm really, really excited for this. I really do want this to come. And the interesting thing, it's not the only large corporate looking at the UK at the moment. So the future is looking really, really bright for UK scare attractions. Now, what it means for all the others, so all the ones I've mentioned and every other scare attraction around the UK and Europe, you've got 5 or 6 years to up your game. You've got 5 or 6 years to give yourself something unique. And one of the good things about us here in the UK, we've always had quite unique ways of scaring, unique storytelling, better ways of doing things. It's actually going to make our scare attraction industry just go up. I think it's going to elevate us. I think, there will be some casualties. I think some few people will get caught out by it. But actually, I think it can only be a good thing. And I think people, even if they do travel to Universal, they come back home to, say, Bristol by Fear or go up to York, they go home to York, they'll still go and visit their local events like York Maze, Fear Raven Valley, Scare Kingdom up north, like Farmageddon. All those events, I think, are still going to survive. So it is exciting. It's a really, really good time. All we could do is watch this space. Hope they don't find any jumping spiders or crested newts or anything on that piece of land, and just keep our fingers crossed that the UK is getting a massive theme park, Halloween Horror Nights, and if we don't get that, let's get Halloween Horror Nights Unleashed. Let's get the indoor attraction that's currently being built in Vegas. It's being advertised, or it's being built as a permanent scare attraction, an event space, a convention space. Who knows? We could be holding ScareCon there in a few years' time. There's obviously a desire to come to the UK, and I think we just need to embrace it. We need to look forward to it, see what happens going forward. But we will keep sharing the news. If we get any more, we will let you know. But those are our thoughts on whether Halloween Horror Nights coming to the UK is a good thing or a bad thing. Love to know what you think. Put your comments down below. I've just watched the South Park special, so as they say in that, smash that like button. I hate that expression. But do please, click the like button, click to register, do all the things you're supposed to do at the end of a YouTube video. We'd love to see your comments about what you thought about this. And do subscribe for our content. Obviously, we've got lots of scare attraction reviews from last year. We've got lots of things coming up. And we're going to do more discussion videos like this as we get closer and closer to this year's Halloween, what's going on with Halloween Horror Nights. We're going to follow this closely. I will be probably retired from general work by the time Halloween Horror Nights UK even arrives. But hopefully my heart will stay strong and I can still go. I'm really looking forward to this event coming. So with that, we're going to sign off. We will see you at a scare attraction very soon. Have a great new year, and we will see you all in 2024. Goodbye.